Cats on ships. The idea doesn't seem to make much sense since most cats hate water with a passion, but the ancient Egyptians used cats on boats to catch birds on the shore, and the ancient Phoenicians sailed with cats, eventually introducing the domesticated cat to Europe in about 900 BC. Cats on ships have an incredibly long history.
There are good reasons for having a cat on a ship. They catch rats and mice that can chew ropes and sails and get into food supplies, not to mention carry some pretty nasty diseases. They help morale, and some, like Sam, Blackie, Miss Chippy, and Simon, have unbelievable stories.
Let's dig into this.
Oscar was a ship's cat on the German ship Bismarck in World War II. Yes, the Bismarck from the Sink the Bismarck fame. When the British HMS Cossack did sink the Bismarck on May of 1941, only 116 of the crew of 2,200 survived, plus one wet black and white cat, found hours later floating on a piece of wood. He was quickly brought on board the Cossack. The crew called him Sam, and they loved him.
Unfortunately, the Cossack was hit by a torpedo that October, and it sank. 159 of the crew died, but Sam survived and was rescued with the remaining crew. The British aircraft carrier HMS Ark Royal took the cat, now known as Unsinkable Sam, on board, where he kept the crew entertained and the mice at bay, until the Ark Royal was torpedoed by a German U-boat in November, and it sank, and Unsinkable Sam survived again.
Having used 3 of his 9 lives surviving sunken warships, it was decided Sam should stay on dry land. He spent some time as the official mouse catcher of the governor of Gibraltar before being brought back to the UK and living out his days in luxury at the Home for Sailors. He died in 1955, 14 years after his original ship Bismarck sank.
Blackie was the ship cat of the British battleship HMS Prince of Wales in World War II. He became a star when the Prince of Wales carried Prime Minister Winston Churchill to a secret meeting with President Franklin Roosevelt in August of 1941. This meeting would result in the Atlantic Charter, an incredibly important document outlining the goals for Germany and the world after the war ended, and a statement of the United States support for the British in the war.
Blackie seems to have liked Churchill very much, and when Churchill waited to disembark for the meeting, Blackie decided it was time for a cuddle, to the delight of everyone. Churchill complied. The press loved it. Every camera on ship caught the goodbye pat, and soon as newspaper around the world printed the photo of the Prime Minister and the ship cat.
Blackie became a star and was renamed Churchill in honor of the important mission he became such a big part of.
Let's just start off here by saying everyone thought Miss Chippy was a girl, and by the time they found out she was actually a he, more than a month after leaving port, the name had stuck. An intelligent and very friendly tiger-striped tabby cat, Miss Chippy was the ship's cat for Sir Ernest Shackelford's ship, the Endurance, on the famous trans-Arctic expedition.
Reports say the cat was brought on the voyage by Harry McNish, the ship's carpenter, who was called Chippy by the crew. Whether he brought the cat on board or not, that cat loved the crew of the Endurance, and was particularly fond of Chippy. And Mrs. Chippy got her or his name because the crew thought the cat followed Chippy around like a jealous wife. Wherever Chippy went, Mrs. Chippy was right behind him.
Shackelford's trans-Arctic expedition would end in disaster after the Endurance became trapped in ice and eventually crushed. With supplies critically low and chances of survival even lower, Shackelford ordered several sled dogs and Miss Chippy to be shot. It was thought this would be more kind than freezing or starving to death. The entire crew of the Endurance was devastated by the order.
Harry McNish was one of the few survivors of the Endurance expedition and eventually made his home in New Zealand. He died in 1930 and was buried in Wellington. His grave was unmarked until the New Zealand Antarctic Society donated a headstone for him in 1959. And then in 2004, the Society added a life-size bronze sculpture of Mrs. Chippy.
Simon, another black and white cat, was the ship's cat for the HMS Amethyst during the Yangtze incident of 1949. Along with the Royal Navy ships HMS Consort, HMS London, and HMS Black Swan, the Amethyst patrolled the Yangtze River from Shanghai to Nanking, protecting the British Embassy during the Chinese Civil War.
Simon was wounded in a bombardment when artillery shells exploded in the sick bay, engine rooms, and generator, and the ship grounded on the bank of the river. A 15-foot hole was blown out of the bulkhead. 25 of Amethyst's crew, including her commanding officer, died in the battle. The ship took over 50 direct hits and ended up stranded for almost 10 weeks before they were rescued.
Poor Simon had burns to his back and face, and shrapnel wounds into his legs. The crew did everything they could to help him heal, and he did. He continued to hunt and catch the huge rats getting into the few supplies on board that had to last until a rescue could be made. After catching a particularly nasty rat that had been biting the crew, he was promoted. From then on, he was Able Seaman Simon.
Simon died from an infection only a month after returning to Britain. He was buried with full military honors, and hundreds attended the funeral. He was posthumously awarded the Dickin Medal for bravery and ability to comfort his fellow crew members. He is the only cat to ever receive this award.
Cats are no longer allowed on military ships, which is kind of a shame, but many serve on merchant, cargo, and even cruise ships. And maybe one day they'll even serve on spaceships. Don't forget Spot, Data's cat on Star Trek The Next Generation.
We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
And if you like this video, you might also like our video on amazing hero dogs too.
As always, thanks for watching.
And we'll see you on the next one.